You know, we talk a lot about people's book buying problems and all of that, but you know what they don't talk about? They don't talk about when you have access to free books and you put a whole bunch of them on hold and then they all come in at the same time. Does that happen to anybody else? Just me? Hello, my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm gonna show y'all what happens when I get ideas and don't put into thought the amount of time I have as a person. It is truly concerning that I think I can read all of these in 14 to 28 days. So as you know, I only do like occasional hauls of books I bought because I don't buy a lot at the same time and I don't receive that many. So I thought, why not talk about some of the books that I have gotten from the library and I am excited to read and or in some cases have read at this point. We'll start off the top with my favorite scores from the library, which would be Tiamat's Wrath, thank you, and Leviathan Falls from James S.A. Corey. I finished this one and immediately requested this one. Why do you still have this, you may ask? Because I haven't done my wrap up yet. And yes, I did have to return it and then ask for it back so I would have a physical something to hold up. These are the last two books in the Expanse series, and it's funny that I was so stressed about this final trilogy because the way they have handled all of the things going into the last book, like, it just was done so well. We've had major character deaths, and I haven't even been mad about them because they're so well done, and I'm just like, oh, I can see what you're doing here. I am very excited. These are like real fun space western things with zombies and a lot of other stuff, and if you like want more information on the series, I do have a full review of Leviathan Wakes, the first book in the series, / kind of the rest of the books that I had read at that point in time, which I think was like 4 or 5. I'm very excited to get to this. I already have the audiobook on my Audible because that's how I've been listening to all of them. And then we're going to talk about some graphic novels. Are they in order? Probably not. So let's talk about some comic books that I have gotten from my library. So I finished the first volume of the most recent iteration of Detective Comics, so of course I had to get volume 2, The Victim Syndicate, and volume 3, The League of Shadows, so that I would be able to continue on and see what's going on, because this kind of left off as a cliffhanger. This is a Batman title, but he is not, like, he's in it, but it is much more focused on the team that he has put together. It's made up of Tim Drake as either Robin or Red Robin. I'm not entirely sure at this point who is what. It's got Cassandra Cain as Orphan, Batwoman, Clayface, Spoiler, and who else? I'm missing someone. Anyways, I am trying to get caught up in a lot of the different Batman titles that have been coming out since most recently with the Rebirth line, and then what kind of when they stopped being Rebirth, but it's still the same title. If you don't know, like, comic book titles get rebooted every now and then, so you hear like Detective Comics 2016, that's because it's the most recent like version of that title, because DC made some dumb decisions and had to reboot. Have you ever screwed your big title up so much that you had to reboot the entire universe after rebooting it 5 years earlier? Have you ever done that? That just is still funny to me. After that, I also got Batman Night of the Monster Men. This is a compilation of several different titles. I believe it's got Batman, it's got Detective Comic in there, it's got Nightwing. I do appreciate that they are taking some of these like stories that are spread across multiple titles and they're using them to kind of like they're actually binding them up in its own little bind up. I don't remember anything about this one. I think I may have read it. I feel like there is something that happens in here, but I might be thinking of Nightwing actually, like the Nightwing. But anyways, I don't know. We'll see. We have All-Star Batman Volumes 1, My Own Worst Enemy, and then Volume 2, which is Ends of the... Oh, it's right there. Ends of the Earth. I have read Volume 1, but it was a very, very long time ago, and I felt like I didn't remember as much of it as I would like. I wanted to be able to sit down and, like, start the first one. Also, I needed some graphic novels for something. Have I read them yet? No, and that was months ago. Anyways, here we are. And then the final one that I have is Mr. Miracle. It is the 12-issue kind of limited series that Tom King and Mitch Gerads did. I really like them as a, I was gonna say couple, but I like them as a creative team. And I read the first, I think, 6 or 7 issues of this as they were coming out. And then, as I do with most things, I started falling behind and didn't finish it. That's part of why I have not gotten on Batman Catwoman yet, because I know that, like, I'll read the first 3 issues and then it'll be 6 years before I get back to it. So I'm just like, I'll wait till they have the bind up and I will read it all in one go. After that, we have some novels that I have gotten for various reasons. Projects, some book clubs, some stuff that my friends have talked about. Do I know what most of these are about? No, not really. We're gonna figure it out together. I have Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. I got this primarily, was interested in it because look at this cover. Like, it is just fantastic, and I'm not entirely sure what story it is telling, but it's a story that I want to read. So this is a adult fantasy. It is about Shi Ying, and she is in hiding from the Celestial Emperor. She lives on the moon. On the moon. She's up there with Captain America, I guess. She has been in hiding, or her mother has been in hiding from the Celestial Emperor because her mother stole, I guess, like some way to be immortal. And then Shi Ying's power is discovered. Like there's a flare of power is what it says, and she's discovered. And so then she ends up training next to the Emperor's son. I'm here for that. I'm interested in that. I have a feeling I know where that is going. And having to fight the Celestial Emperor for an unnamed goal. Like, does it tell us what she actually wants? Ooh, even as passion flames between her and the prince. This is promising me everything I would want from this book. Okay, so she's trying to save her mother. I am assuming it is probably due to the consequences of her mother stealing this potion that gives immortality, but could be something else. Her mother could be sick. I love me a good star-crossed lovers story. Just like where you're on opposite sides, or there's some sort of like, there's some reason why you should hate each other, and yet you're like, or actually less like, there's some reason that people are like, you should hate each other, and they're like, yeah, but what if we did the opposite of that? What if instead of hating each other, we decided we were our favorite person? Just, I love that. I love that. It's why Cruel Prince works so well for me. Because they want to hate each other so badly, and yet the more they work together, the less they are able to. The next one that I got from my library was A Dreamer's Pool by Juliette Merlier. I have read one other book by her, and I really liked it. I can't remember what it was, but it's young adult. But this is an adult fantasy, I do believe, and Kara really liked it. And I don't remember exactly what Kara described, but it sounded interesting. It is about a young woman named Blackthorn, and she has to team up with some dude named Grimm. And there's also a prince involved who thinks that he has found, like, his future bride is his true love, but he's also found some letters that make him question that. He has to go to Blackthorn for help with this problem of his possible marriage. These two, at least, oh no, that has a 14-day loan on it. I'm in trouble. I don't know if I will actually get to this one anytime soon for reasons, but I wanted to have it because it sounded interesting. And then I found a whole bunch of other books that sounded, I was trying to be good, and then I wasn't. Part of this is that I am trying to read more like current adult fiction so that I kind of know what the market looks like as I am trying to work on my own adult fiction, because like I know a lot about YA fiction, but adult fiction, you know what we haven't done? We haven't put these back over here. This is going to be such a huge stack of books, we might have to block the candle. Moving on through the list, we have The Cartographers by Pang Shepard. This is the author of The House of M, which I do believe is on my want to read. So why I'm picking up their newest work instead of the one that's actually on my TBR? Don't ask me. I don't know. I cannot be held responsible to my Goodreads. This is about Nell Young, and she ends up, basically she's had a falling out with her dad, and her dad has now been found dead, and he has a copy of a map, which is the thing they fell out over, and she finds out that it's a very rare map, and someone's been hunting it down and destroying all copies of this map. And so I guess she's gonna have to figure out what the heck is going on with that. I have heard interesting reports about this. I don't, like, not the greatest. I think a lot of people have just been bored by it, but I don't know. It says it's perfect for the fans of Joe Hill and V.E. Schwab, and, like, you compare it to V.E. Schwab and you've got me. They're probably thinking about, just based on this plot, probably comparing it to, like, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is kind of very much slice of life. The next one I'm not really going to talk about all that much because you've probably heard about it and know more about what it's about than I am, but that's From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I am not sure how I feel about the fact that I'm needing to read this, because I've heard differing things about things in this, but it is an adult fantasy, and that's about as much as I know. A Maiden, a Duty, a Kingdom. So it's about, oh yeah, this is the one that has like Poppy and whatever their face is. I know that like book 3 or 4 we get into some polyamory. We'll see where we go. what happens. The next one is A Book of Night by Holly Black. I know a lot of people have been disappointed by this book, and they're like, nothing happens, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, does nothing happen, or is the journey mostly an emotional journey and there's not a lot of plot forward stuff that happens? Because I'm okay with that. Like, I'll have people like describe and say like a book doesn't engage them, or they weren't interested, blah blah blah, they were bored, and like I'll read that book or have read that book and be like, what? Like, just total disconnect. So I have not written Holly Black off just, like, I haven't written this book off just yet. This is about somebody named Charlie. I know it's dark academia. There are dark doppelgangers involved, apparently. Okay, so this is about a girl who is trying to separate herself from the magical world that she's been involved in. It sounds like there's some shadow magic going on there. She's also dealing with her sister needing some stuff from her, and then some stuff that's coming up about her boyfriend that he did not tell her about his past. Another one that I'm not really going to talk about, because you probably already know what it's about, is the first book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, House of Blood, Earth and Blood. Why we made the decision to put the title of the book like this and have that, because number one, I actually think Crescent City is a better title. That's just my opinion. And then A House of Earth and Blood. Like, there are so many books that have that title. Like, so many books, even by this woman, that have that title. I have heard mixed opinions about it. I know it's about what, Bryce and Hunt, and it sounds like I at least will be into the romance. I have liked some of Sarah's series before. If you don't know, I rage quit the Throne of Glass series because I just was like, there's a review where I rant about why Crown of Midnight just, I was like, I don't want to go on after this. I'm tired. I'm sorry. There are other books to read where the author doesn't do this shit. This is for a project. And if I did not have to read it, I don't know if I would be getting to it at all or anytime soon. I don't know. We'll see. The next one we have is Kaikeyi by Vaishnavi Patel. This is about Kaikeyi, which it looks like is a character from the Ramayana, looking at the back of this book. I know that it also mentions Bharat, so I think it possibly could also involve stories from the Mahabharata, but I'm not entirely sure. So it sounds like it's a retelling kind of in the vein of Circe, where it takes a woman who was maligned in the original myth and actually looks at it from like a more feminist lens and looks at the social, just like based off of the summary that I'm reading. It's looking at it like this is her story, this is why she made the decisions she did, and kind of reimagining that with her as the protagonist. I think that sounds very cool, and I'm very excited to get into this and read this. Should I start a new one? Because you guys, yeah, that's the last one that you guys can see. I think we're starting a new one. Speaking of retellings and Greek mythology, we have Electra by Jennifer Saint, and it's about Electra from Greek mythology, not from Daredevil. Although I'd be cool reading stuff about her as well, because she sounds like a really cool character. No. This involves Agamemnon. That trilogy. Had to read that for theater school. The Greeks knew how to write some really weird plays. Yep. Okay, so this kind of marries the story of Clytemnestra, Cassandra, and then Electra, who is Clytemnestra and Agamemnon's youngest daughter. This is the one that ends up with Orestes having to murder his mother, which also curses him. And then he ends up being haunted by the Erinyes. Just so much Greek family drama. Just so much. Like, it's almost as, like, it's competing with Oedipus for the amount of family drama. Which is worse, sleeping with your mom accidentally or murdering your mother on purpose? Final one for this stack, at least, is The School of Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. This is about a woman who is feeling unsatisfied, I believe, by her career and her marriage because her husband is a douchebag, looking at the summary, and kind of finds fulfillment in her daughter until something happens and she gets kind of like, basically ends up in the eyes of, I believe, I'm not sure if this is set in the U.S. or somewhere else, but whatever the equivalent where she is of DCF is, the Department of Children and Families, whatever happens, and she gets brought in by them, and she ends up in this says Big Brother-like program where they're trying to decide how good of a mother she is. And that just Sounds terrible because stuff happens and you should not have to watch your child 24/7. That's just ridiculous. Sounds interesting. I'm not sure where the fantasy or science fiction element comes into this. So we'll have to see whether this is like what's going on with this. But I did get it on a list of other fantasy and science fiction books that I'm, again, trying to read. So the next one that I have is Sisters of the Never Sea by Cynthia Lettich Smith. This, reading the description, is a retelling of Peter Pan with an indigenous main character. We have this kind of blended family that's happened. We got two stepsisters, Wendy and Lily. Wendy is white, and then Lily is Muskogee Creek. And then they also have their brother, Michael. Oh, yeah, I see. Wendy. Michael. Okay, yeah, that should have been obvious from the very beginning. The fact that I had to get all the way to, like, the second paragraph. Basically, the family is going to be spending the summer apart. I'm not sure if it's because, like, the parents are separating or something's going on there. The two girls are very, very anxious about that fact, and then Peter Pan shows up. And this is one of the books I picked up to read for Thor's Board for our Eternals boss battle that I never finished because I just stopped reading it that month. Then we also have Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This is another one where I have the author's first book on the list. Why I picked this up, you know, that's, oh my god, this still has an actual pocket still. This is a brand new book. Why did they put a pocket in there? So it sounds like we've got 3 different timelines going on here. We've got one in the past, one in what would be like, it sounds like our present, and then one in the future, which is probably where the science fiction comes in. This is a very interesting cover. Like, it's so, like, kind of desaturated. It sounds like all of these people, while trying to deal with stuff in their lives, end up being affected by or finding themselves near the corridor of this airship. And that sounds very, very interesting. I love how I say that like I'm trying to convince you that I'm actually, in fact, interested in it. And then I have what will be my first John Scalzi, the Kaiju Preservation Society. I'm assuming by the fact that kaiju is in the title, there are giant monsters, but let's see. I'm just gonna read this out loud because there is nothing I can do to summarize this that will not, like, just the majesty of this summary and everything that is going on. It says, when COVID-19 sweeps through New York City, Jamie Gray is stuck as a dead-end driver for a food delivery app. That is until Jamie makes a delivery to an old acquaintance, Tom, who works at what he calls an animal rights organization. Tom's team needs a last-minute grunt to handle things on their next field visit. Jamie, eager to do anything, immediately signs on. What Tom doesn't tell Jamie is that the animals his team cares for aren't here on Earth. Not our Earth, at least. In an alternate dimension, massive dinosaur-like creatures named kaiju roam a warm and human-free world. They're the universe's largest and most dangerous pandas, and yet they're more vulnerable than you might think. It's not just the Kaiju Preservation Society that's found its way to the alternate world. Others have too, and the carelessness could bring catastrophe to both versions of Earth. I love that he just is like, hey, I'm door dashing for an old friend, and then gets up as a zookeeper for giant reptilian pandas. I am assuming that since they have made this, like, connection with pandas, that these kaiju are as bad at keeping themselves alive as actual pandas are. Like, pandas just, I don't know how, because they're just mostly anxiety, it sounds like, with a fur coat. Just reading about pandas and, like, all of the various things, it's like, what, how are you still alive? And the reason they're still alive is because humans look at them and go, oh, and have been keeping them alive, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's just, it's really funny. After that, we have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I have heard such good things about this, and considering that, again, I am looking for more adult fantasy to read, I have this. This, I feel like, is going to be one that I start very, very soon, just because of the things I have heard about it, and I would love to at least have one of these books done by the end of the month. But we'll see, because I have a couple of other things that I absolutely have to read first. What is it about? I don't know. Oh, this is my main character. Okay, this was a good choice. Okay. Sometimes reading counts as writing. So what if I just, like, instead of writing, I read this book? We could do that. That could work. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, man. So this is about a girl who does not want to be a hero. This is sounding like The Two Princesses of Bamar meets into the woods, because it starts out like this woman, this young girl, she was raised in a convent, she doesn't want to be a hero, but her sister is being held captive or whatever, she's being abused by a prince. And so this girl has a series of impossible tasks that she has to complete in order to get the help she needs to save her sister. And then, let's see, she is joined by a disgraced ex-knight, there's potential there, a reluctant fairy godmother, and an enigmatic grave witch and her foul familiar. So there's potential, there's multiple potentials here. I am very like this. I just kind of want to throw my whole TBR out now. I just goodbye and read this. Whoever had this book before me is a much more reasonable person than I am, and only checked out 2 books, including this one. So the next one that we have is How High We Go by Sequoia Nagamatsu. This is comped to Cloud Atlas and Station 11. It's set in 2030, and apparently they discovered a virus in the Arctic. Like, they unearthed this girl that died of the virus, and it is spread throughout the world. Oh no, that happened in 2030, and now we're in the future from there. But basically, the Arctic plague has reshaped life as people know it, and this is about several people who have been affected by that. This sounds like it's going to be rough. It also sounds like someone has been looking at the world and what's going on, and is as concerned about climate change as the rest of us are. Most of us are. Those of us that still have our functional brains are. The next couple that I got were specifically books that I got to for the Curious Minds book club, because I am filming here in a bit. It will either be up right before this or right after this. I am filming the what we're doing for the rest of the year. I have Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. From what I remember, I've heard I really didn't look into much about what this book was beyond what I have been told by friends and the subtitle, which is Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. But this is specifically looking at plants and their importance to Native Americans, and the way that they, like, it's their science and medicine and all of that stuff. I have yet to hear from someone who disliked this book, and that is including fragile white people like me. Anyways, this is one of the books that we will be reading in for the November-December. Since that is taking place over Native American History Month, I felt like it was very important that we get some indigenous literature in there. The next one I got, I don't know why I got, because this is not something we're reading until 23. So, I got Under the Black Flag, The Romance and the Reality of Life Among the Pirates by David Cordingly. Sneak peek for what's happening. Maybe, I have the other book. Maybe I'll just, I don't know. We'll see, because we still have to, I haven't decided whether I'm going to put the 2 books we're reading in January and February in or not. Oh, I'm going to have to put all of those back on the bookshelf. The good news is, they're already mostly in the order that they need to go on the bookshelf, so it's fine. It's fine. Those are all of the books that I have most recently gotten from the library. I mean, I'm always at my library. We're at the point at my library that I walk in the door and I have to tell them, hey, I'm going to go look for a minute, because they see me walk in and they go to my shelf. I have a shelf at my library. Kind of embarrassing, kind of impressed with myself. The one place that I'm okay with being a regular is my library, because my librarians all like me. And all they want to do is talk about books. They don't want to ask me awkward questions about how my day is going that I know. They only have to ask me because they're trying to, like, be good customer service people. Anyways, long story short, those are the books that I have recently gotten from my library. Maybe we'll revisit this and see if I've read any of these. How many of these I've read in a couple of months? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. This is my first library haul. If you're feeling chatty, let me know in the comments, what was the most recent book you got from your library, or if you're not a big library person, or even if you've read, just like if you want to, you can also tell me about these books. If you've read any of them, what your thoughts were about them, all of that kind of stuff. You know I'm always down to talk about books. If you are not feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me the bookmark emoji, because apparently there is one. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, I will have other videos over here. If you're into hauls and you're feeling like watching me talk about more books, I'll have a haul up here, and whatever is newest on my channel will be right down here. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! If I remember correctly,